workers are being encouraged to return to their places of work if they can't work from home. And the government said it was working with employers to establish guidance about making the workplace safe. Our business editor, Simon Jack, has been looking at how businesses are adapting.
Hi-ho, back to work we go. Manufacturing workers actively encouraged tonight by the PM to return. At Ford's Technical Centre in Dunton, so far 600 of 4,000 employees already have a squirt of hand gel and a temperature check, now part of the morning routine. But feeding the Ford 4000 may take a miracle of organisation. Catering firm Compass run the staff canteen and the kitchens that would usually have 10 chefs on duty. Business is slow. Communal areas like staff canteens, one of the big challenges. A lot of people thinking they should be shut. Compass, who run this, think they can do it safely. But as you can see, it's not that busy. It's not so much whether they think they can do it, it's whether workers feel comfortable. And that applies to kitchen and canteen workers as well.
If employees don't want to do anything, we're not going to force anybody to do anything. The priority at the moment is to make sure they've got the right PPE, they've got the right training, and that we put the right processes in place that you've seen today.
In the Yorkshire Dales at the Gamecock Inn, the food is take-out only. Eric and Marie served 56 takeaway Sunday lunches this afternoon. The Prime Minister raised hopes that hospitality could partially reopen in July, but Marie worries that opening too soon may be as risky as not opening for months.
We have little rooms as dining rooms, and it would mean us having one table per room of diners, which isn't worth opening for. We just don't have, the overheads are more expensive than what we'd be bringing in. Or there's also the other way that we might not open until next year, and by then we won't have the funds to be able to do it either.
The truth is that businesses big and small are already inching back to work, but it's a journey of confidence, and unions aren't convinced the government has everyone on board, particularly as the government says workers should avoid using public transport.
I'm afraid the Prime Minister's statement tonight is a recipe for confusion and possibly chaos. With just 12 hours notice, people are being encouraged to go back to work, but without any answers on what happens on public transport, what happens if you've got children, what happens if you're supposed to be shielded or vulnerable in some other way.
Would you like the yoghurt dressing on that?
Back at Ford, manufacturing managers feel ready to go.
In those areas where we've prepared successfully, which we have, we've prepared diligently, which we have, then I think it's time to go back to work.
Updated guidelines on making workplaces safe are expected on Tuesday. These are tentative moves forward, and the government told business groups on a call tonight it would put them back into reverse if it has to. Simon Jack, BBC News.
Now, the move to reopen schools in England is seen as a vital factor in kick-starting the economy by allowing parents to return to work. We'll talk to our economics editor Faisal Islam in just a moment, but before that, let's talk to our education correspondent Elaine Dunkley, who's in Salford tonight. And Elaine, what do you make of this package and what are the questions raised?
Well, primary school children in England could be going back to school in just over 3 weeks. So those in reception, Year 1 and Year 6, they could be going back after the 1st of June. And the Prime Minister also announced that secondary school pupils who are taking exams next year could also be going back to get some extra time with teachers. But there are going to be some big maybes hanging over this and some even bigger headaches, and the headache being social distancing within the classrooms. Teachers are very concerned, particularly when they've got primary school children, that they won't be able to maintain social distancing, hand washing, minimising social interactions in the playground, in the classroom, in the canteen. And this is going to hugely change the classroom environment. And also, there's the issue of if a child becomes ill, what happens? Does the whole school then have to go into isolation? Now, the teaching unions have called this reckless. They've asked for clear scientific evidence for a safe time to return back to school. They say that this doesn't pass the confidence test with parents, teachers, and whilst there is a need to have children back at school, this is a big lesson in keeping teachers, children and their families safe.
Elaine, many thanks again. Elaine Dunkley there for us, our education correspondent in Salford. Back here in the studio, Faisal is with me, our economics editor. Clearly, the government's dealing with a huge health crisis and has been for months now. But tell us a little more then about the economic crisis that they're also having to deal with.
So you're right, two crises here. As the Prime Minister says, hopefully the health one has peaked, but the economic one gets more severe by the week. And if you cut through everything that the Prime Minister said today, then what you get is the fact that the economic lockdown, in essence, stays largely, and indeed is extended in terms of things like restaurants and cafes and cinemas. We'll get the detail tomorrow, into July. That's another 7 weeks. In other areas, though, we'll have heard the change in tone, the shift of emphasis, as the Prime Minister called it, from stay at home to stay alert. What's that about? Now, I think when the original prohibitions and the original lockdown was brought in, I think the government didn't expect so many businesses and so many workers that did have some discretion to still work not to take it up. The lockdown wasn't watertight, but it felt more watertight than it was. So I think that in that, what they're trying to do is essentially persuade people to use the discretion in the existing rules. That's what the Prime Minister's words were about. There's one more thing. If the infection rate goes up, the Prime Minister's also said the brakes will be applied. Now, that has economic implications too, and it's why you cannot disentangle the health and the economics. Two crises. For now, the health one taking priority over the economic reopening.
Faisal, once again, many thanks. Faisal Islam, our economics editor.